speaking of abortion, yesterday we had it on some pro-life folks who were discussing several board bills that are pending in the city of St. Louis because one of them dealt with landlords and the other one dealt with your ability to stand on a sidewalk and interact with somebody who was going into, let's say, for example, a Planned Parenthood building. It would put additional restrictions on folks who were doing those sorts of things. We're joined right now by Joe Vacarro, of course, is alderman from the Board of Aldermen from the 23rd Ward in the city of St. Louis. Joe, how are you, sir?
Good, Mark. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Good to talk to you.
Thank you for bringing these subjects up.
Well,
we're on the same side on it.
Your folks are about to take a little break, aren't you, on the board?
Yeah, not soon enough. But, so what will happen on the 10th, or Friday coming up? And I know one of the subjects was 203.
Yes.
So the other two, there's three of them total, 292. I don't know the other one. Those two stalled, and I think those two I don't think will come up in this session. I do believe 203, although I will be a no vote on it. It came out of committee. It was second read last week, which means this Friday it gets perfected. And what that means, any changes could be made to the bill Friday. Things could be added or subtracted. I don't think it's good, and I think it's going to get challenged in court almost the minute we try to pass it. Again, I'm a no vote. But the way the process works, it could be perfected this Friday. If there's no changes from the committee, they can ask to suspend the rules, and if two-thirds of the aldermen agree, they can actually final pass 203 tomorrow. Otherwise, it goes all the way out to April 17th, the last session day.
I see. So it automatically gets pushed off till the 17th?
Well, yeah, it would be perfected, and then third read and final passed on the 17th. But there is a rule that if two-thirds of the aldermen ask to have it's suspended, they can actually perfect it and pass it tomorrow.
Sure.
So there's a chance that it would actually go into effect after the mayor would sign it tomorrow.
So just so people know, Board Bill 203 is titled An Ordinance Regarding Pregnancy and Reproductive Health Decisions as Protected Classes. So it basically adds these categories to anti-discrimination language that already exists. It
does.
Yeah.
And although, I wasn't in committee on that, and I'll be more versed, tonight and tomorrow.
Sure.
As I try to do things and make changes. There's things in there that really bother me that, if I understand it correctly, even if you hand out a leaflet, if you talk against someone on it, all these things can get you a $500 fine or 90 days in jail.
Or as the Archdiocese has pointed out, if they own a piece of property and don't want to or do something that is perceived to be against reproductive rights on that property, they can be subject to a fine.
Oh, yes. No, that's the truth. And they've made some amendments to this bill that would somewhat let the churches out. But then you still got businesses that have fought against these things that have very strong religious, like Hobby Lobby and places like that. And it seems to me like they're not exempted out. Although, again, I'm not as versed as I should be on it. It just seems like this stuff being brought up at the end of a session like it is, in my opinion, I think these are bills that are put up to get people excited and get them out to vote one way or the other. I think it calls a lot of people out that they have to say, I'm pro-life or pro-choice. And to be honest with you, I have no problem saying I'm pro-life.
Right.
So nobody has to call me out.
Well, I think it's interesting, again, like you said, we're coming up on the primary in April, and if this doesn't get a vote tomorrow, then neither of these would get voted on until after the mayoral primary, correct?
Right, and after the general election.
Yeah, that's true.
It'll be on the 17th, which is the last day of session. So at that point, everybody will be sworn in the next day. But yes, it'll be the very last day of session.
I think about half the Board of Aldermen's running for mayor, aren't they?
I thought it was a little more. I don't know what I was going to file, but I guess it was too late.
I guess so. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I also noticed, and I'm not asking for you to comment on this, but Alderwoman Cruzen had submitted something on an assault weapons ban that back in November, but it's seen no action since then. So I'm assuming it's still been stalled in a committee somewhere.
Well, she never had it heard in committee. The only thing that was heard in committee was the lockbox, and that actually passed out of committee, where if you have a weapon with you and you're going to stadium, you're required to have a lockbox to put your gun in. And on a first-time offense, nothing happens. I guess they just tell you should have did it.
Yeah.
On the second time, that's a little more. And, I'm not for banning assault rifles. I kind of believe that the bad guys get guns. And all you do is, every time we mess with people's, constitutional rights, I think it becomes an issue. I do support the lockbox. Just being responsible, put it in but then I just don't even understand if you're in the county and you come into the city, you may not have a lockbox in your car. So these things these are all, and nothing bad against anybody, but keep in mind, she's been an alderman for multiple years, and now she's running for mayor, and now it's an issue.
Yes.
And, the same as these board bills that are coming up that, that are coming up. These guys have been aldermen for quite a while. It's just funny how right around an election they bring up stuff that they think would stimulate their base.
Yeah, I guess if you lock your car, you haven't locked your box enough. You need to have something else inside the car that's locked up. But
well, they want to require like
one of those steel boxes or whatever inside the car. I mean, I think that's smart. I have one in my car, but I mean, ultimately you're kind of putting the burden back on the legal gun owner because they want to go into a place like Busch Stadium that says you can't carry a gun in there. So then if you've got your gun with you, you've got to leave it in the car. So you're trying to be a law-abiding citizen, and then your gun gets stolen out of the car, and you're going to get fined because you didn't have it locked up properly in your car where it should have been secure to begin with.
Well, actually, there's no fine. That's what I'm saying. It's kind of silly. The first go-around, I think they just probably say, well, you should have did it. But, and the other thing that gets me that's just goofy, you got a guy that wants to he's got an armored truck that you at least check your gun into somewhere safe, and the city's fighting them on it. They don't want that. And then yet they want to go after you, on lock boxes. And, again, we should just change this to the United, well, not even United, but we should become our own state, the state of St. Louis, because apparently federal and state laws don't apply. We're going to make our own up as we go.
We're talking to Alderman Joe Vacarro. Joe, I know I didn't prep you for this ahead of time, but I have to ask about the tax increase that the city's going to look for to foot the bill for this soccer stadium, among other things. What was your take on that? I'm not convinced that a big Major League Soccer stadium next to Union Station is the answer, considering the financial difficulties the city faces in a lot of ways. Well,
and here's my take on it, although, again, we're going to be working on this tomorrow. They'll get perfected tomorrow, so the big debate will be tomorrow. But I have sat in those committees, and I would give kudos to, Alderman Scott Ogilvie. He held out until it at least became a better deal. Maybe not the best deal, but a better deal. So they're going to do the entertainment tax, and it's going to come back to the city. They're going to do a SID in their, our community improvement district over there to help pay this thing. So if it does what it's supposed to do, it could actually make money. I mean, the one thing is you don't know. And I've never been anti-business. I mean, we have to grow. The MetroLink, they're asking for a half-cent sales tax on something that they haven't even shown us where this thing's going.
Right.
And it's going to only go, from what I understand, 5 or 6 miles, and nobody really knows, where's this thing going. And I guess the positive side on the half-cent sales tax is it's going to bring money in for fire equipment and different stuff, but you can't hire more police officers or give raises with that money. I would have much preferred to have seen 2 different bills with 2 different tax increases, so you could vote for or against the MetroLink, a $0.25 and then a $0.25 for either raises for police. But they like putting things together, and my opinion, what's going to happen is they're both going to fail because of the way they're doing it.
Yeah, I'm afraid.
It's an opinion of mine, but
Sure. So the big debate on that one is tomorrow as well. That'll be interesting. Lots of news coming out of the city tomorrow.
Oh yeah, we'll have all the TV crews up there, and I would suspect that they have all their votes.
Probably.
And I'd be willing to bet that 203 passes. It's going to pass. It won't have my vote, but I believe it'll pass.
Well, Joe, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you giving us a little bit of time today and some insight on how this vote's likely to go down.
Mark, God bless you. Thank you so much,
Hey,
and keep up the good work.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us today. Joe Vacarro from the 23rd Ward in the city of St. Louis. So there you have it. That abortion sanctuary city bill is what it was called by the Archdiocese, is likely to be perfected tomorrow, and they might even end up passing it. If they all vote to do that, they could pass the whole thing tomorrow, and then it suddenly becomes ensconced in the discrimination ordinance of the city of St. Louis, and people like the Archdiocese and the like are not going to be happy about that. There are going to be lawsuits, I imagine, filed pretty much as soon as it passes.